Hey guys, Austere August gear again, same as yesterday. Semogue Owners Club, boar brush, Taj handle, timeless, 68 open comb, stainless steel DE razor. Chisel face Midnight Stag in the cologne as well as this, the shaving soap. This is the older version of the artwork. Be using the Gillette Nacet that I've been using for a long time. 457 is today's count. I'll be using City Slicker Splash. Here's the Midnight Stag Cologne EDP. Here's the City Slicker Splash from Stirling. I'm going to get the boar brush back soaking. Now, I'm going to do a little bit different technique today. I'm going to fill up my jigger in case I need it. I may not. My friend Walden was talking today, and he has used, he might be using Midnight Stag this month, like me. And but I know at least he has used this kind of soap before. One of the ingredients that is at the top of the list is coconut oil. Now this does have a place of about 5 or 6, stearic acid, aloe vera juice, potassium hydroxide, beef tallow, and then coconut oil. There are some people who, if they see coconut oil anywhere near the top of the soap ingredient list, they will avoid that soap. In many cases, it's the lather that you've seen me generate so far. It tends to have a lot of structure, kind of blows up in volume, but it's kind of airy and not super slick and super creamy when it's in that blown up volume, right? And it's kind of an old school type of recipe or product or ingredient in a shave soap. There's a good number of soap bases out there that still use a lot of coconut oil, and so it's not anything weird. But I think we've made a lot of advancements into different soap formulations, and that we got a lot of newcomers like here's one that did Pages. Hub City, I think, is what it's called. The 345, the one that did like White Rome, White Buffalo, or something like that. I think it's called 345. Seaforth. These are kind of new-ish makers, and they've started out of the gate better than a lot of these older school. The Strop Shop is one that kind of rings a bell as this older formula. For a while there, the Black Ship Grooming was in the same category of the older kind of coconut oil type formula. At least it felt that way when you're using it. And he responded back saying that, and he and I are friends. We get along great, and so he was doing a hot take, and it's intended to be lighthearted and fun. And he was talking about how you don't have to do like I do and get that kind of airy lather. Now, I do like to get the airy lather, but then work it for a while so that it calms down into something hopefully creamy and really wet and slick. But his point is, with this type of soap base, as he's seen me just load in small quantities, 4 seconds of loading gives me enough for 8 passes in terms of what you've seen me do in the bowl. But his point is that load more and then don't work it so hard in the bowl and on your face. I think what he was saying is don't do those swirling motions. Stick with pretty much painting motions. So should we try it out? Why not? I think I know what I can expect if I keep going like I am. It's an enjoyable lather, but could it be better? Well, let's see. Let's find out. I'm using this soap for the rest of the month anyway, so let's experiment. Now, obviously, I think he's a face latherer, and obviously I could also go toward the zone of face lathering to try to achieve this, but I don't really enjoy face lathering. By the time I get enough water in it, it's just super frustrating. It takes a long time. The good stuff dripping off my face, don't enjoy it. It's not in my list of priorities. Now, before I get my hands wet and doing stuff, let's put the razor in place. My landlord has a dog. Here's the end, the one, the Sharpie dot, a little curve in the blade right there from when I dropped it to show you this is the same one I've been using for a long time. Knurling on this handle here is kind of aggressive when it's dry. You feel like, boy, if I handled this a lot, I think my fingers would it would wear away a little bit at my maybe my skin, and you could definitely rub it aggressively on the corner of some wood and work it down, almost in a rasp kind of style. However, when it's wet, that changes. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but when it's wet, you don't notice. When your hands are wet, you don't notice that kind of sharp knurling. It's not overly sharp, but you do notice it a little bit. It's not uncomfortable. It's not too sharp. I've definitely felt other handles that had much more aggressive knurling that were not enjoyable. This one is. But then when your hand gets wet, you don't even notice it anymore, and it becomes a real positive. You're not going to drop this razor because of the grip of the handle. All right, so how can I then, if I don't want to just purely face lather, how can I then maybe use a bowl in some way? So why don't we just gently bring the lather together. Let's do maybe a 15-second load that that is still 3 or 4 times as much as I need with the way I've been doing it so far. Why don't we try that? And then we'll kind of use this as a modified face lather where we mix it up partly in a bowl and then kind of work it on the face. And then if we get any excess on the face, we can put it in the bowl and save it. That way we don't, like some face lathers do, run out at the end of the shave on that third pass. We still have lather to use. Why don't we try that? Now, as always, if you're trying a new technique in anything, if it doesn't go well, just like right now, if this doesn't go well with me, doesn't mean the method is bad necessarily. Maybe you did it poorly. Maybe I am going to do this poorly. But let's just try it out anyway and be fair with our conclusions. Let's not put that on yet. Let's not load soap yet because I haven't wet my face yet. All right. Shake a lot of the water out, and yeah, that's probably a good idea. Shaking most of the water out is my normal method, and so just because I'm doing it that way doesn't mean I should do it in this new way, right? However, if there's a lot of water in here, then it's just going to dump out kind of when you start working it. So how about I go ahead and stick with that? Just it's wet, but just lightly wet. 15-second load. Why don't we try that? We're just going to not try to aerate the lather as part of the goal. Kind of treat it gently, not do any kind of splaying, scrubbing type motions, but stick with painting strokes. Some guys really like the painting strokes. I think that if you have a brush that you just like to use, but maybe has a lot more backbone than you like, then painting is a great way to go because it's much more comfortable to paint a stiff brush than it is to scrub with it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start kind of the lather. I don't really know of a gentle way of of generating, except maybe going slowly. A gentle way of kind of bringing this together in the bowl. Maybe just stick with the tips. I'm not causing the brush to splay very much, and so maybe that's part of it. Let's try that. I'm not pushing down very much here. In some regards, I'm just kind of pushing the lather around, and he said he was able to get a creamy, slick lather experience by doing it his way. Now, sometimes guys who like to face lather, and they like to do it differently than I do. I think sometimes they say it's slick, but it's because they never really have added more water and gotten it really slick. Now, sure enough, this we have worked kind of the bubbles out in a sense, and it is starting to look more like what you might shave with. Let's just keep doing that for a minute. I'm kind of going around, just kind of letting the tips do the work. Shall we just try it? See, take a look. That's very different from the airy, light looking stuff, watery looking stuff we got right when we first started with the shave, with the mixing here. So it's got some structure there. You can see the way it moves. It's got a little bit of weight. Like that. So when we just try it, we've surely got lots of soap here in the brush. I probably will just kind of dribble the water here, so I don't think I'll need my jigger. With that one, it's a little hard to add small amounts of water. So it might be tough for me because my habit is this wonderful splaying action that I enjoy so much. You just don't get, to me, you don't get the same brush lather comfort experience, that luxury, unless you're doing a swirling motion. Just the painting like this is soft and nice, but it's just different. It's part of shaving. It's not the whole thing to me. And so even if this does become some magical way to make this lather exceptional, I think it would be hard for me to do it on a regular basis. So yeah, this is super dry. I think sometimes new shavers can mistake this kind of dryness for creamy and luxurious, you know. And in a sense, it is luxurious when you're touching it with your fingers. But it's just not as slick as when you get it properly hydrated. See, that's just a totally different texture than you ever see on my channel. But that's okay, because we're just kind of working on it right now. Let's start adding water now. Here's the trick. I think this is in need of so much water that it's going to be a real chore to give it the water it needs. But let's just do the best we can. My neck is definitely the easiest area to kind of make some headway on in terms of moving brush back and forth. Just kind of putting a bunch of drops on and then going to my neck with it. And there we go. That's what happens with face lathering. In many cases, the good stuff falls right off. Oh, see? But again, this could be a technique issue, you know, maybe guys don't add water that quickly. Maybe they work it for a little while first. So maybe that dripping off is an annoyance that I'm kind of bringing upon myself. I think that this method, or any method where you use a bore brush to paint only, is going to be one where it's going to take your bore brush a long time to break in, because you're definitely working those tips less. The lather is starting to solidify in some places. It's tricky. See, down here we have a more dry lather than up here and here, where I've been able to kind of, you know, add water to the brush, and so I'm hydrating this area here, and then I can kind of take and spread that up. But then the fringes down there, it's like they're not getting the stuff yet. So you know what I can do? I can just empty the fringe. Gonna do some lather circulating here. And Walden often does watch my videos, which I'm very grateful for. I really enjoy his comments and talking with him about some of the different things about shaving that we deal with. And so he might be able to look at this and help me modify my technique. This does seem a little longer than even when you count the minutes I might spend putting together a bowl of lather. If I were to add water faster, then you know what would happen is that lather would be kind of flying all over even more. Maybe starting with a wetter brush, you know, so that's something I could try in future attempts. So right now, do I have something on my skin that's kind of luxurious and creamy and also highly slick? Or is it just creamy? Let's find out. Obviously, if I were to use this method more, I could I would get used to the motions. I'm not used to a lot of those motions, especially working over here. I generally just swirl on this side. It's easy to kind of flop, 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 paint on that side over there. So, you know, it really kind of looks pretty good. It's still got a little bit of a translucency to it, so I kind of feel like it's hydrated. Let's give it a shot. Nacet blade, 457 uses, I believe. This Semogue brush is maybe on its 74th use, something like that. Does feel pretty slick. I have always wondered if you change your brush moving technique, if that results in different kind of lather. And the thing with some soaps, it might be true. I have tried, with my bowl lathering, I've tried a couple of soaps where I worked the lather together very slowly with slow movements to maybe try not to whip a bunch of air into the lather. That felt pretty good. And then I would do that same shave again with a more normal, vigorous type of activity. And with that particular soap, it didn't seem to make a difference. One lather wasn't more airy than the other one. So this may have been a pretty good test. Thinking of doing the mixing with kind of sticking with the tips, that may have really been the right way to go. Let's try everything again. Second pass. If I turn out not to really like this method, well, I just like the scrubbing. I just do, and so I'm just not going to pick this method. I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of the feel of the brush. And so I can definitely say this is not going to be something I land on, even if I discover that it does exactly what Walden's talking about. That was all prefaced to something, but I just went off on so many little tangents that I forgot where I was going to land. I think I do need to keep adding a little bit of water here. So let's just kind of analyze this lather for a second here. Yeah, it does have a creamy feel to it. And I think more creamy than what I'm usually able to kind of generate. I think this is a good information. Just happens that with this kind of soap, if you can bring it together gently, and it's a different lather. Now maybe if I were to bowl lather in a similar way as I have been doing most of the month, if I were to keep working the lather, I bet it would land at this place. It just takes more time. This gentle waking it up, this hydration with just a different kind of movement gets you there quicker. But yeah, because I was able to kind of put excess in the bowl, then I didn't have to try to worry about keeping that excess on my brush. And because you're kind of bringing everything together gently, it didn't create a lot of extra around my peripherals. So I think this is a legit method, and if you are interested in, you like some of these coconut oil type soaps, and you find it's an airy type of lather that you get, why not try this? Either just do a face lather, but just kind of be kind and painting strokes only when you work everything up. Just tips, you know, use the tips to, if you want to use a bowl partially in the beginning like me, just kind of stir it with the tips. Yeah, it's not quite as slick. I can tell it's not as, my skin's not as hydrated. It has a higher soap concentration here than what I've been doing so far with it. It's got a slowness right now, but it's probably that coconut oil. However, my method, it doesn't have great secondary slickness either. And so at least this has some secondary slickness. So in a sense, maybe you're running the lather a little dry just so that you can keep a little bit of that coconut oil on your face, perhaps, for the purposes of moisturization and stuff. I'm just guessing here. Get a good rinse. I could definitely feel I was needing to wash or rinse more product off my face in these two rinses I've done so far than my other normal method. And I guess that's normal because that's to be expected, because you are putting more product, more soap, more concentrated product on your face. And so then it's not going to rinse as quickly as a wetter lather. I'm going to stay with the program here. And for this third pass, this is actually taking a little bit longer. Let's be fair. I did talk about what I was going to do at the beginning of the shave. So, and also you can't judge how fast something is if you're at first, if you're trying it kind of as a noob. And regarding this type of method, I'm kind of a noob. And this does feel a little dry on my face. So, and that's one of the issues with face lathering that I don't like, is a lot of times you have to kind of redo the lather each pass sometimes. Especially if you have to go back and get more soap for the third pass because you've run out. You've got to start all over with adding water to the brush and all that. I've seen my share of guys who use really dry lather, and then they put a little topping of water on it. It's like they've caked their face with stucco. They put a little water, some water in their brush, and so it's like they're transforming the top layer of the lather into something that resembles something slick because it gives it a gloss, that kind of thing. And then they think they've matured their lather. And of course, if that works for them, then great. But I've kind of tried that. It just wasn't very nice. I am getting a little bit of irritation. Let's just call it tenderness down here. I haven't gotten that before all month. It does make sense because I'm shaving with a lather that is a lot more soap concentrated than I have been using. This method might tend to dry out your skin a little bit more since it's a drier lather. But it is kind of using the coconut oil to do a lot of the slickness action. There are some cases where I believe that I'm getting some friction because of the pastiness of the lather. And that is actually giving me some razor burn, or helping the razor burn to be a little bit more irritative. I sure hope that's a word. I've been using that a lot. All right. Shall we do a touch-up pass on the neck? Why not? Well, because I used the bowl, I was able to have lather as long as I needed it. Definitely, if I use this method, I think I would want to keep doing that. So the slickness, like I said, kind of comes partly from the water and partly from the lather. And I believe in this case it needs the lather more than with my usual type method. It takes, the water definitely helps it out, but it's dependent more on the oils and the soaps, is my guess. My face does feel a little drier than usual. I can feel it kind of itch, a slight itchiness, a little tightness, if you will. I can feel kind of that oil on my face, or something like an oily type, slickness, but it's a slow, oily type slickness, like a thicker oil, not a nice, fast shaving kind of slickness. So this method's a little bit of a trade-off, as so many things are. I'm able to get a kind of creamier, a wetter lather that's still creamy. However, I'm not able to enjoy it as much in terms of the feel on my face, because I'm not letting the brush really work it into my face. I'm not feeling all the bristles interact with that luxurious lather, because of the way I'm working it. So that's kind of a catch-22. Well, there we go. That'll be interesting. Compare the kind of slickness that I get with this versus what I've been doing so far, my usual method that with this soap results in kind of a more airy type of lather. I might go back and be able to compare the two. It could be that my normal method and not taking the lather quite as far with hydration, maybe landing in the same spot, might be worth playing around with, but this has taken a little bit longer. Let me draw it to a close here, put on the splash. Definitely been enjoying the City Slicker from Stirling. I don't want to have to join the video, so I'm going to pause you while I put this on. Here's what the brush looks like after a towel stropping. Here is the Midnight Stag cologne. If I take the video too long, like over 35 minutes, then I have to take a lot of work and read and join up the two parts. That's a wonderful scent, Midnight Stag. You guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's an interesting little test. It definitely had some negatives, but it had some positives in terms of the creaminess I was able to achieve. So maybe we'll play around with it more, see what we get from this. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Wishing all the best for you. Take care. I hope this helps you out in your shaving journey. Good night.